And welcome back to another amazing episode of Sports Talk with Dad. Holy buckets, did a lot happen this week that we have to talk about. But before we get into any of that, as always, my name is Kyle, and I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me, a man who came to this country through Ellis Island, my dad, Tim.
I did not come through the Ellis Island. Our family did.
Got our name changed over there.
We did.
It's okay to admit how old you are. I tell you that all the time. It is okay to admit that you're old.
I did not come through Ellis Island. I am an American through and through, just with Irish ancestry. And I'm 7,000 some in line for the British throne.
You are not in line for the British throne. You are not in line for the British throne.
7,000 something. You know?
Nuclear war has to happen, and it will be you and cockroaches and Keith Richards left on this planet.
Well, Keith and I are probably going to survive anyways, but that's another story.
I am out for sure. But like I said, we have a lot to talk about.
We do.
And a huge thing happened this weekend, which has probably not been done in the history of sports. And when I'm saying that, I am not joking, that this has not been done in the history of sports.
We're going to talk about that later, though.
Well, I have something now. There's two things, actually, that haven't happened in the history of sports. But one of the things that happened is the women's basketball national championship outranked the men's basketball championship this weekend.
It was a better game.
It was a better game. It was a better storyline.
Much better storyline. Caitlin, I just blew her name.
Clark.
Caitlin Clark. I'm sorry.
Caitlin Clark versus Angel
LSU.
Reese.
Yes.
Caitlin Clark for Iowa, Angel Reese for LSU. I mean, talk about what will become the greatest rivalry in women's college sports. This rivalry, because they're both most likely coming back next year.
Oh, I think they are.
This rivalry could be as great as Magic and Bird was when Indiana State and Michigan State came together in the NCAA.
Odds are they're going to meet again in the finals next year. Because Caitlin Clark is that good and that dominant, and Angel Reese is part of one of the best teams I've ever seen on the women's side.
It's probably the first paid-for team in women's history, by far. NIL really ruled, and good for Malarkey, who is going down as one of the greatest coaches of all time, in my opinion, has surpassed Pat Summitt, because she did it with two teams.
Pat Summitt did it for a long time, and
so has Malarkey at this point.
I know, and Gino Arimana from UConn is also right up there.
The funny thing is he practiced that name probably 15 times before we started the show, and you still got it wrong.
I know.
I'm not even going to attempt to say it, so because I'll get it wrong too.
I even had it played on my computer so I would get it right.
You did enunciation guides, and you still mess it up.
Never mind.
Give up.
We're just going to go with Gino.
Good call.
Yeah,
good call.
So. But he's right up there. It was the only bad part about the game. And it was a very sad part, is the refs felt the need to be part of the story.
They were too much involved in that.
They were calling every touchy-feely. Caitlin Clark goes into halftime with 3 fouls.
So does Angel Reese.
Angel Reese has 3. And they just let them play.
Second best player for Iowa gets kicked out at the beginning of the fourth quarter.
Correct. And a lot of the fouls were just minor touch fouls. You and I talked about the foul that ended the San Diego State versus Florida Athletic game.
Right.
It was worse than those kind of fouls. The referees just needed to swallow their whistle and let the players decide it on the court.
They did, but they didn't. I think the game still turns out the same way that it did. I'm hoping more than anything that they get back to the finals against each other.
I would love to see it. And give credit to LSU. They were the dominant team. It was a full team against Caitlin Clark. And Clark was missing some shots I don't think she normally misses because of the pressure.
She was the only one on that team scoring points.
Well, exactly. Iowa's got to do some recruiting. They've got to give her some help.
They do.
Because LSU was dominant. And it was a great game to watch.
It was. And hey, Angel Reese is probably my favorite player.
I love this, by the way.
All time.
Oh, God. That
Pointing
was
to the ring, saying, "You can't see me." People giving her a lot of flack for that. Listen, Caitlin Clark talked trash more than anybody in the NCAA tournament. She earned the right to talk trash. I love it.
I do too.
And I hope it continues. This is a girl who had been forgotten about at Maryland, comes into LSU, is the player of the tournament.
And we're going to
be for her.
I'm going to be talking about Angel Reese later on in the show because I love her for another reason.
Yes.
But everybody giving her problems, giving her static about putting her ring finger up. If that would have been Bird and Magic, it would have just been trash.
Bird would have done it, if Magic would have done it, if Jordan would have done it, if LeBron would have done it, it's not a problem. I don't know why we're going after a kid because she did it. Caitlin Clark is a class act who would have done the same thing.
It was just a celebratory, I'm getting a ring.
Right.
And they scored more points than any other women's team in the history of the game in a championship game. Let her celebrate. Let her own it.
Well, and after the game, she had nothing but great things to say about Caitlin Clark, and vice versa. Caitlin Clark about Angel Reese. They're both class acts. They're in the heat of battle. They're excited.
They may
Who
take.
cares?
They are going to take the WNBA to new levels. They will be the Magic and Bird of the WNBA because this rivalry is going to explode. I hope they're not on the same team.
If women's they won't because they'll be 1-2 in draft picks. I mean, the WNBA needs to make sure they're not on the same team. But the WNBA needs to market this really well because they actually have a really good chance to bring viewership that the WNBA has never seen.
And for the right reasons. These two can play. They're awesome.
They're unbelievable players. They're unbelievable to watch, and they're going to take women's basketball to a whole new level. And I'm hoping they both come back next year because I want to see what they can do.
I want to see LSU Iowa 2.0 because I think, number one, the referees will be more prepared for a game of that level. I think they were taken aback by how big of and how high the magnitude of this game really was in the national attention. Women's basketball never gets this kind of attention.
It's the first time you've seen a situation where the game wasn't too big for the players, but it was too big for the refs.
Exactly. And then there was the UConn-San Diego State game.
So UConn becomes the fourth highest margin of victory of all time in NCAA tournament history. They averaged a winning by over 20 points.
They were the most dominant team in the country. How they were that low a seed is beyond me. But they showed up for this tournament. They were prepared. 5 championships in the last 24 years with 3 different coaches, I think it was.
They're as blue blood as you get. I mean, UConn disappeared in the Big East. When the Big East disappeared, so did they, because they were playing against weaker competition at that point. They were forced into a conference they didn't want to be a part of, and then found their way home.
Yeah. They dominated. Give San Diego State credit. Great tournament. Huge win in the semis.
San Diego State will be there again. This is a tournament on the rise. Let's not forget that.
Well, I think UConn, though, we're going to see them in same position next year.
They could bring back all their players.
And they may. But some are going to go to the NBA, but they could reload. Give credit to San Diego State. They got it within 6, but then UConn the talent just exploded.
You just saw it. I mean, they were outcoached. They were outmanned. They were out everything. It was a boring game. I mean, the score got close. The game wasn't close. I've heard people say the game was a lot closer than the score was. No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
And neither was Iowa LSU. And in all fairness, LSU dominated that game.
Right. In the whole NCAA tournament, how many minutes was UConn trailing?
I have no idea.
55 seconds.
Really?
In the whole tournament, they trailed in a game for 55 seconds.
That's dominant.
It is dominant. But like I said, they were the 4th highest average margin of victory in NCAA tournaments since the expansion in 1985. Can you name the other 3 teams that were higher?
Duke?
Not Duke.
I'm going to go Blue Bloods first. Michigan State?
Nope.
North Carolina? Kansas?
North Carolina.
All right.
In 2009.
Kansas?
Nope.
I got nothing.
Kentucky in 1996.
Oh, yeah. For that
Pitino's team.
The one and done team.
Yep. And Villanueva in 2016.
Villanueva? It's Villanova.
Villanova. Sorry, I'm thinking of Charlie Villanueva, who played at Villanova.
Villanueva. Well, that's a new name for Villanova.
I'm thinking of Charlie Villanueva. Leave me alone. But yes, it was Villanova in 2016. This is a crazy part about Villanova in 2016 is that's the team that won on a last-second shot against North Carolina. They won their Final Four round by over 40 points.
Shows you what a great game it was, though, in the championship game.
It was. I mean, it was just amazing.
I loved this. Was probably one of the best marches I've ever had because both tournaments were so much fun to watch. I've typically never watched a women's tournament.
I don't. This is the first national championship I watched, but man, they marketed it well. The players performed. It was a great show. But you know what we're doing now is we're marching into April.
Yes, we are.
Which means the Masters are here.
The greatest week of the year for me because April means the Masters. April means spring. This year is going to be filled with drama, though.
I am so excited. We talked about rivals, right? We are now... Something just fell in the background in case you wonder why we both just jumped. Hopefully it doesn't show up on camera, but I think I may have wet myself a little bit. That scared me a lot. What were we talking about?
We were talking about the Masters and the rivalry that's going to be there.
This is going to be intense, and I'm hoping you and I disagree on this because I want it to be in the final round, Liv versus PGA.
And I don't. I just want Liv to be dominated, go away. I want Rory to be in the finals, Scotty Scheffler to be in the final round, or the final grouping, Justin Thomas. Tiger, of course, that would be the story of all stories if Tiger was in the final grouping.
He said it himself. He doesn't have a lot of Masters left.
He doesn't.
He's almost done.
It's impossible for him to walk it anymore. But I want to see, I'm old time, I want to see PGA players in the final grouping competing for the championship, and I don't want to see Liv.
I want to see Brooks Koepka come into this. I want to see him compete for the finals. I want to see Bryson DeChambeau in one of the final groupings. I want to see
Johnson.
I want to see them all.
No.
I want to see them all there competing. Who's the guy that won the British Open over Rory?
Cam Smith.
Cam Smith. I want to see Cam Smith there in the final grouping with PGA players.
I don't.
Just to make this the most intense Sunday.
It will be too.
Of all time.
Well, and here's the thing. We're going to find out now if going and taking all the money and playing less golf, playing 54 holes,
right?
Having it be much more relaxed atmosphere, team play, all of that. We're going to find out if that's going to hurt them when they come and have to play a real golf tournament. Play a major. 72 holes. Walking 72 holes with all that pressure on. So far, they haven't really shown up. This will be the first time in the Masters where these guys know this course. But how are they going to be able to hold up over 72 holes?
Listen, one of two things are going to happen. You're going to see these guys in the final grouping, or you're going to see none of them make the cut. And if none of them make the cut, it's the beginning of the fold of the Liv tournament. I don't want to see it die. I want to see this rivalry continue. This is great for golf. Why wouldn't you want this?
I like what the PGA Tour is doing. They're adopting some of the things from Liv, which is smart marketing.
Yep.
You know, Tiger and Rory are kind of taking the lead on that. I don't know. My problem goes back to just the way Greg Norman has handled it. He is obviously the anti-hero. He's taken all the heat. Fred Couples has been very outspoken.
Yep.
And good for him.
Backed his comments.
Absolutely.
Not apologizing for anything.
He's not apologizing for a thing, nor do I think he should. Because what he said was honest. Is like, yeah, you can go and take the money. I don't care. I like these guys. They're good guys. But don't come back and start running down the PGA Tour, which is what made you all the money in the first place that allowed you to go and make a huge payday.
Keep it up. I want to see them continue to go after the PGA Tour. I want to see a rivalry like we just saw with LSU and Iowa. I want to see intense golf coming down to the final day because that's what makes golf more exciting. And anybody who doesn't want that, I don't understand.
I want to see it intense coming down, but I don't want the ancillary drama, the made-up drama between Liv and PGA. I just want to see. I want to watch the golf. I want to see the golf. I don't want to hear can a Liv player beat on and on and on. I just Let me just watch the Masters and enjoy it for the spectacle it is.
Listen, you can watch the Masters and take your nap. I
never nap during the Masters.
This is more exciting. This is more exciting having this rivalry. This is more exciting if they're both in the finals. This is more exciting golf of which one is better. And you're constantly competing between the two tours. It is NFL versus AFL. It is AL versus NL back in the day. We've lost that in a lot. AFC, NFC play each other all the time. AL and NL play each other all the time now.
Which I don't want.
You don't have that final go after each other like you've had. I mean, Iowa, LSU, Big Ten versus SEC, you had a lot of that, and it was fun to see that in sports again, and the golf can make that happen consistently.
If Bruce Koepka is in the final grouping on... I said Bruce.
Brooks
Koepka. Yeah, I did screw that up. Sorry, Brooks.
Now you got me going backwards.
If Koepka is in the final round, that's where the drama is, because he lives on a knife's edge all the time anyway. Yep. If he's in that final grouping, it will be an interesting.
Listen, you had Koepka DeChambeau rivalry, and they both decided they didn't know how to play golf anymore.
Well,
and so having them come back, Koepka's been getting his game back a little bit. He's won 2 live tournaments now, and he's going to be coming into the Masters strong, coming off of a win. But you let us know what you think in the comments below, and while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy the show as much as we enjoy making it, because I want to see Live versus PGA in the final round of the Masters.
And I'm a traditionalist. Just give me the PGA Tour players. You know, if you left and went and played your little celebrity golf, go ahead.
We did get to watch another rivalry because it is opening day of baseball. What Brewers fans consider a rivalry, what I considered a nothing. Cubs had a winning record after opening day. That's all I wanted. I wanted the Cubs to have a winning record at some point in this season, and they had a winning record. They started the season 1-0 and then haven't won a game since as of Tuesday, April 4th. But that's okay. We'll figure it out.
So Milwaukee had their opener earlier this week. They had a B1 flyover with the stadium closed.
Excuse me?
Yeah. They had a B1 flyover. Everybody around here is going, what was that noise? Well, it was a B1 bomber that flew over AmFam Field, and nobody could see it because the roof was closed.
Was it raining?
It was chilly that day.
That's why the roof was closed.
Yeah. The other big news, there is a manhunt going on for some guy who decided he couldn't wait to go to a restroom and just relieved himself in the concourse.
At American Family Field?
American Family, yes.
Well, you have that. You have some moron that decided to run on the field and play Look at Me as he proposes during the middle of a game.
Did you see the hit that guy took?
He should have been hit again. Don't run onto the field and be stupid. You just completely made that proposal about you.
Completely about you.
If I would have done that to my wife,
your wife would have said no.
I wouldn't have been married.
No. And I've never understood this. I really haven't. Asking somebody you love on a big screen. I like the one time where the girl just didn't react and later said no.
Yeah.
It's like, what are they thinking?
I don't know. I don't get that either. To me, it's more of a private and intimate moment. But I could be wrong. People like the big show. I don't even mind. Like, I've seen it where people like, hey, go on this boat ride and they come back in and, it's all their friends and family. Sure. It says, will you marry me? That's fine because it's still a private setting. It's a show, but it's still a private setting. But to run onto a field.
Apparently he's banned for the year.
Well, dude should be banned forever. Like, don't do that. It was dumb. But the other thing that I'm really excited about happening, because it completely goes against what you believe, and that always makes me happy, is Shohei Ohtani, who used the pitch comm to call his own game and struck out 10, proving that the pitchers are the star of the league and the catcher shouldn't have a say in anything.
No. See, I don't disagree with the pitchers being the star of the game, and I'm glad Ohtani... No, I'm not, because pitchers should never call their own game. Catchers are the ones with the brains. Pitchers are dumb robots that just throw the ball hard. Listen to your catcher.
Proven wrong. Greinke also called his own game and won his opening day start for the Royals.
Yeah, well, They would have won anyways. Probably won by more if they would have listened to their catcher. Ohtani is just off the charts. And Greinke, too. I mean, they're both brilliant guys.
Greinke's my favorite because he is such a weird guy.
Most pitchers should not be allowed to call their own game because they just aren't smart enough. But that's just...
Proven wrong.
Might just be a personal thing for me.
I think it's just a personal thing for you.
I knew a lot of pitchers.
But Ohtani's doing stuff we have never seen. Once again, proving he is the greatest player of all time. Hands down.
Not
Babe
yet.
Ruth is off the table.
Not yet.
He is.
Not yet.
Right now, he is the greatest player of all time.
Not
and
yet.
baseball is doing a shit job of marketing him.
Well, there's a shocker.
You have the greatest player of all time, and nobody's going to see him play because you don't know how to market.
Again, they regionalize the game, so the Angels are on the West Coast. They never get seen on the East Coast. Ohtani is the greatest star of today's game. He's not the greatest yet. I think if he's going to be the greatest of all time, he's got to do it over at least a 10-year period. That's all I'm saying.
He's the greatest player of all time right now.
Yet.
He's doing stuff nobody's done before. Babe Ruth has never done this.
No,
because Babe Ruth never pitched during the live ball era.
He never pitched and hit at the same time.
And he never pitched during the live ball era,
That
so all his
doesn't
pitching
matter.
stats don't count.
Yes, they do. We're not going down that road. Ohtani is doing something we've never seen before. He could go down as the greatest player of all time.
He will.
If he keeps it up for 10 years, pitching and hitting the way he is, absolutely.
He is the greatest player of all time, and I am so excited for him to hit free agency and go to a team that's actually going to play in the playoffs. He and Mike Trout both need to leave the Angels, clearly, because they can't seem to build a team around them.
You've got
they're being forgotten about.
You've got the two greatest players in the game, arguably, with Mike Trout.
On the same team.
On the same
and
team.
Nobody watches them.
Look, if these two guys were in St. Louis, it would be amazing.
Listen.
Especially with the Contreras there as a catcher.
I don't want to ever see Ohtani in St. Louis. I want to make that clear. I'd
like to see him in Chicago.
I don't want Ohtani. I don't even want Contreras. I don't want anybody good to go to St. Louis.
I know.
I want them to be a terrible team, but it is a great organization, and that would be a sight to see. Ohtani in a Cubs uniform, because I refuse to say Ohtani in a Cardinals uniform.
Or a Yankees uniform. I don't want to be a Yankee either.
I don't want him to be a Yankee. I don't want him to be a Met. I don't want him to be...
And I don't mind him being an Angel. Just baseball. Get your head out of your behind and learn how to market on a national basis again. Again, going back to, instead of 3 5-team divisions, make it 5 3-team divisions, because then everybody's watching every team in the league.
And here's the thing. He's one of the few pitchers at this point that doesn't have a pitch clock violation. And that is unbelievable in and of itself. But, man, has that changed the game?
The pitch clock has been... long time coming. It has cut the game times down by over a half an hour.
Yep.
So now you can go to a game and you're going to get it done in 2 hours and 30 minutes, which is what it always should have been. So while I'm a traditionalist, the pitch clock has been outstanding, unlike the bases being bigger.
100% disagree.
Just don't like. I know they're stealing more.
Base stealing is up. Injuries on base stealing are down.
Wait a minute. It's been 3 days.
I'm going to use the stats I have in front of me.
It's been 3 days.
I'm going to use the stats I have in front of me, which means that injuries are down because of the bigger bases.
It has nothing to do with the bigger bases yet. Give the season time. I don't like the bigger bases. Learn to run the base the regular way.
The issue is, you know why base stealing's down, right? Or base stealing's up, I mean. It has nothing to do with the pickoff move. It has to do with catchers not learning the art to throw down to second base.
Well, there is
when you were growing up back in the 1920s, catchers had to know how to throw down to second base, or they were going to get stolen all day long.
Nobody
in the 80s and the 90s, you had to know how to throw to second base, and that's
part of the game.
Why did base stealing go down during the steroid era so much? Because those catchers knew how to throw down to second base, with Ricky Henderson being
everybody tried to hit home runs with every single swing. Look, when I grew up, it was Thurman Munson. It was Johnny Bench, who had the greatest arm of all time. I worked on it constantly to throw people out because people would try to run on you as part of the game.
Right.
I think the balk rule is going to come back to bite them in the end.
Is it balk or balk? Balk, right? Like a chicken.
I call it balk. B-A-L-K.
It's like saying milk.
It's like saying Milwaukee without the L. Milwaukee. But it's a balk.
I think it's balk.
It's a balk. Balk, whatever. Pick your term.
You don't say walk. You say walk.
Well, that's an English language thing.
So you would say balk because it's the same word with a B instead of W.
We're really going down this?
It's balk.
Balk.
No,
you're going to get
balk.
We're really going to get into English language.
Just saying, walk, balk. You let us know what you think in the comments below, and while you're down there, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy the show as much as we enjoy making it, because it is balk. But the balk rule hasn't been an issue yet. It will come into play where it is an issue.
Yes.
And it will come into play where it's an issue come playoff. And that's the frustrating part. Because we can look at it now, but nobody's doing pickoff moves at the first week of the season.
No, they're not.
It's just not happening. You start to see it more and more after the All-Star break when the games start to matter more. That's when it's going to become an issue.
You're going to get 2 pickoffs, and the guy's going to get the extra base.
And the catchers right now are not trained how to throw it down to second base, except for Wilson Contreras. You're not going to steal on Wilson Contreras. There's a couple other catchers you won't be able to steal on. But who was it? It was Yachty and Wilson Contreras. Yachty's gone, replaced by Wilson Contreras. So you really only have... Shut up. I know, and it hurts still. I saw him in a Cardinals uniform.
Made you cry.
I wept. It made me really, really sad.
Didn't have to happen.
It shouldn't have happened.
Anyways, it
made me sad.
Go back to the balk rule.
But the balk rule is going to have effects. The bigger bases has been unbelievable. The extra stealing of bases has made the games more exciting. The pitch clock has made the games move faster, which has actually helped in pitchers going longer. Have you noticed that?
Yes, because pitchers are in the game. They don't have to wait for the batters. They're just keeping going. It's easier to get loose. It's easier to stay loose, especially on these cold spring days.
Pitchers are averaging between 5 to 6 innings, which is not something we've seen. Even though it is only the first 3 days, that's not something you normally see early in the season. This is something we haven't seen in the last decade of baseball.
I'm hoping once June hits and it really starts warming up that you're going to see pitchers going 7, 8, sometimes even the full 9.
I'm hoping so, which brings me to another thing I want to talk to you about in baseball, which I'm going to save for later in the show. But I do want, because it's coming time for somebody who should be in the Hall of Fame, and he's not going into the Hall of Fame. And it upsets me more than anything because he was one of my favorite players to watch. But before we talk about that, I do have to complain about something. So that ump in the New Orleans and Mississippi Valley State,
the guy who should never be allowed to umpire another game,
made the bad call, comes out and apologizes in the most ridiculous, worst way possible.
Backhanded way.
Blames the players and the fans. He said they were saying racial slurs. Fine. End the game if you're that worried about it.
Time out. He was a black umpire umpiring a game between 2 traditional black colleges.
Mississippi Valley State is. I don't know about New Orleans.
Yes. I don't buy it.
I don't buy it either. I really don't. Like, you're an umpire.
Right. If you hear those things, throw the people in the stands out. Get rid of them.
Like, if it's that bad, end the game. You don't have the right to intentionally make a team lose as an umpire because people said things that hurt your feelings.
And did you see that he tried to say that kid showed him up on the previous pitch?
I should have just thrown him out. He just pointed to where it was because you made a terrible call.
Correct.
And then you intentionally ended the game. You don't have a right in that type of position to get your feelings hurt.
If you're an umpire, your feelings better be in check. Have a thick skin. He should never be allowed to umpire he shouldn't be allowed to do slow pitch softball.
No, I'm tired of this nonsense. You don't get to react poorly because your feelings were hurt. That's not how the world works.
Nope.
You are in a profession. You are paid to do this. I've had bosses being mean to me. I still have to perform. I've had different people I've worked with be mean to me. You don't have a right to let that affect the way you perform at your job.
I've been mean to umpires in the past.
I'm sure you have.
And you know what they told me? Shut up. The next time you say anything, you're going to get tossed.
You're out. That's the end of it.
And I never pushed it past that point.
No.
And plus the fact that if you're a catcher, I also protected them because that's your job.
And you have a team that's losing, right? Of course, they're going to react poorly to a bad call. They're losing 7-3. It doesn't give you a right, and that apology was bullshit.
It was, because the pitch that the kid pointed out was a horrific call. It was way outside. The next pitch
was even worse.
Was in the first base dugout.
It was Charlie Sheen Major League outside. I mean, it was the...
Yeah. All we needed was Euchre going just a bit outside.
If you want to throw people out and end the game, end the game. If you want to apologize, apologize. Don't go out and say, I apologize, but. Just don't apologize.
Own it.
If you're not upset about it, say, yeah, I made a bad call because of this, and I'm not sorry for this. Don't go out and apologize. And then...
You don't blame a bunch of kids.
Blame a bunch of people that you control how you react. You 100% control how you react. You teach children this. You are a grown adult in a profession that you get yelled at a lot. Umpires are hated.
It's part of the game. I mean, umpires get yelled at. They used to kick dirt on them constantly.
Right. They get in their chest. Like, you're an umpire. That's part of the job, is getting yelled at by players because your calls change the course of games. You made a bad call on a team that was losing, that was trying to rally back in the last second of the game, and then you just ended the game because your feelings were hurt, and your apology saying, but it wasn't my fault. They were blaming me.
Or boo-boo.
Unacceptable. Unacceptable. He needs to never be allowed to ump another game ever. But we're going to talk about greatness now, because the NBA Hall of Fame class is this is the greatest Hall of Fame class to go in together, maybe of any sport. You have Dwayne Wade, Dirk Nowitzki, Pau Gasol, Tony Parker, Becky Hammon. You have Greg Popovich going in as well.
It's an impressive class.
Who says the final words? Who gives the final speech? They all could give the final speech.
I don't know how you decide that. In my mind, it's got to be probably Popovich, but maybe Dwayne Wade, maybe Dirk Nowitzki.
I think it's got to be Dirk, because Dirk changed the game more than anybody ever has. He changed the way people looked at big men. He changed the way the game was played. I mean, Dirk came in at a time where there was Shaq, right? Big men didn't shoot threes. And here comes Dirk. He shoots threes.
The saddest trivia question about Dirk? Who drafted him?
The Milwaukee Bucks.
And he flat said, not going there.
Nope. Not going to play in Milwaukee. They traded his rights to the Dallas Mavericks.
It's going to be fun to see. I mean, and congratulations. They all deserve to go in. Dwayne Wade, obviously. Marquette grad. Absolute Hall of Famer. Dirk, unbelievable player. Hands down belongs in there. They all do. Popovich, probably one of the greatest coaches of all time in the NBA.
I don't normally watch Hall of Fame speeches. I will watch those. I mean, those are some of the most amazing athletes. I mean, I'm excited to hear what Becky Hammon has to say, one of the greatest female players of all time. You have Dirk, you have Dwayne, you have Pau, you have Tony, who are some of the greatest European and male players we've ever seen. And Greg Popovich is one of the greatest coaches of all time.
And Tony's going in with his coach.
He is.
So it's going to be a fun celebration of a lot of people's careers.
And it's a good celebration for the Mavericks, considering what's happening to their team right now.
Hey, they made a trade to try to turn things around.
Since Kyrie has joined, they had a winning record. 1 game, 2 games, it was 28-26. They have only won 9 games and lost 14. Now, they may have had another game in there since I looked this up, but they've lost 9. They've gone 9-14 since Kyrie's shown up. Luka's performance has been down, and he doesn't seem to be enjoying himself at all anymore. This has been a grind. They went from a 5 seed in the playoffs, looking to get a 1 seed in the Western Conference, to fighting to just get into the play-in game now.
The NBA playoffs are going to be interesting.
Well, sure enough, Kyrie's whining, saying, this isn't what I came here for. This isn't what they brought you here for.
This is a Kyrie problem, because this has happened everywhere he goes.
Every single way. Every single place.
So this is not on him. I mean, this is on him. This is not on the team.
No.
He's a cancer in the clubhouse. Everything is all about him, and it's showing itself one more time.
Your job as the point guard is to get in there, pass the ball to Luka, and take the shot when Luka's being double covered. That's what this dynamic should have been, and it's not what it's turned into.
No.
When those two are on the floor, they've won 6 total games.
I think they're going to be a first round out.
I don't even think they make the playoffs.
Maybe not.
So what do you do with Kyrie at this point? Because he's going to be a free agent. He's going to want a ton of cash. I could see Kyrie being out of the league next year.
There's no way I sign him, because look at where he's been and look at what has happened every place he's been.
I mean, what team would take a chance on him? Because he's not going to want to go to a team that's, a losing team, right?
I don't know where he goes. I just don't.
The only place that makes sense to me is New Orleans. Because you have Zion there. They're an underperforming team. They're missing a star. And if they get that chemistry right, they could become a winning team. It's the only place that I could see actually spending money on Kyrie, because what do they have to lose?
Somebody's going to spend the money. Somebody's going to bring him in. He's got all the talent in the world, but he is a cancer in every clubhouse.
Yeah, he's proven it time and time again. I really don't know where he ends up, and it's too bad because he could be one of the greatest players of all time.
Could have been.
This kid is so good, and he doesn't even try. Like, he's giving half an effort on the court and is destroying everybody. Imagine if he actually got competitive and actually started to try.
Well, if he would have got competitive, he would have won championships.
Yeah.
KD couldn't play with him.
No.
And KD is a good teammate.
Yeah.
Look what he did in Golden State. When healthy, what he'll do, what he did in Brooklyn, what he will do in Phoenix. This is a Kyrie problem. Somebody's got to get into check the attitude.
Hey, my bold prediction is that Kyrie's going to end up in New Orleans next year. You let me know what you think in the comments below, and while you're down there, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it.
My bold prediction is that Aaron Rodgers goes to a team other than the New York Jets.
You stole.
Hey, you just had your bold prediction, so I get to make mine.
It's called a segue where I was going to go into it.
Yeah, well, I got there first.
Aaron Rodgers is not being traded to the New York Jets.
He's not. I could see him going to New England, and if the Packers are smart, they're shopping him to New England. Try to get Wilson, because he and Belichick are not seeing eye to eye anymore.
Wilson? Mac Jones?
Jones, sorry. I was thinking Jets. Or where I think Rodgers does probably end up, under the Golden Gate.
San Francisco.
I think he goes to San Francisco.
Well, if he ends up in San Francisco, and we end up getting, say, even a first-round pick for him, the Packers had a chance to get 4 first-round picks per reports for Aaron Rodgers 3 years ago when they drafted Jordan Love.
Correct.
Why didn't you trade Aaron Rodgers then? If that's what was going to happen anyway, why wouldn't you make the move then? Because the Packers are getting peanuts compared to what they would have gotten 3-4 years ago.
They're getting peanuts compared to what the Seattle got for Russell Wilson.
Right.
If they only get 2 second-round picks, I'm going to be upset.
They're going to get a first-rounder out of this.
I think if the Jets thing does happen, and by the way, I think if it is to the Jets, it's going to happen soon. At this point, they've got to pull the trigger.
It's going to be for that 13th pick.
It's going to be for the 13th pick and a second-rounder, something along those lines, and maybe a player coming back.
Here's my bold prediction. You ready for this?
Sure.
Not only do the Packers trade Aaron Rodgers, say they trade him to the Jets and get that 13th overall pick.
Do not say they're going to draft a quarterback.
They use both those first-round picks to trade up and draft a quarterback in the top 3.
Then you're admitting that Jordan Love was just not up to the job, and we never should have drafted him.
Listen, I think the Packers are going to take their chance with Jordan Love. They owe him that chance.
They do.
But if CJ Stroud is sitting there at number 3, he won't be. But if the Panthers are dumb and take Bryce Young, because I think Bryce Young falls out of the first round.
Bryce Young is going to be the number 1 pick in the draft.
If
Charlotte is going to take Bryce Young. They think he's the most NFL ready of anybody, even more so than C.J. Stroud. I think it's a mistake at his size.
C.J. Stroud is the best quarterback in this draft class, but that's what I'm saying. If they...
Says the Ohio State homer.
Yeah, 100%. But I said that about Justin Fields, and look what he's doing with a shitty team in Chicago.
Here's the thing I have, and this, I'm not ripping on Ohio State, but their quarterbacks traditionally have not made the transition to the NFL very well. There hasn't been a...
Troy Smith had his chance, got sick, and was never given another one. He went on to be one of the best Canadian Football League quarterbacks of all time.
Keep selling it. I'm not buying it.
You have Justin Fields, who's really starting to turn it around. You have Dwayne Haskins, who never should have been
Keep selling.
Drafted that high to begin with.
Keep selling. I'm not buying.
You have JT Barrett, who didn't transition well.
I'm surprised you aren't
You
taking
have
credit
Joe
for
Burrow.
Joe Burrow. Oh, there it is. Joe Burrow's not an Ohio State quarterback.
Joe Burrow was an Ohio State quarterback.
He's an LSU quarterback.
Joe Burrow is one of the, if not the best quarterback in the NFL. He is football Jesus.
Yes, as an LSU
Ohio
player.
State quarterback.
No.
Ohio State quarterback.
No.
Joe Burrow. And you have C.J. Stroud, who is more NFL ready than anybody that started a game for Ohio State.
I have a gut feeling that Charlotte's going to take Bryce Young, and then Stroud will go number
the Colts, who are picking, who if they take Will Levis, you have the third pick the Packers could trade up for and get C.J. Stroud.
I've heard, and I was watching Colin Cowherd earlier today. He thinks the Colts are going to trade back. The Raiders are going to trade up and take Will Levis.
They could. They definitely could. I don't think that's going to happen. They just signed Hoyer as well to be a backup to Jimmy G.
Yes.
I'm not convinced Brady won't come back to the Raiders at this point. I think there's still a chance for that, depending on what happens on draft night.
I can see Brady going to San Francisco as well. But I just think Rodgers at this point, if he goes to the Jets, it better happen in the next week to 10 days.
Listen, Arizona's shopping that number 3 pick.
Sure. Rodgers won't go to Arizona.
Houston's number 2. I'm sorry. I don't know why I keep saying that.
Houston's number 2. Houston's number 2. Colts are number 3.
Colts are 4.
Or 4.
Colts are 4.
Okay, who's
now
3?
That we got that down.
Who's 3?
Arizona.
There you go.
Arizona's 3, and they are shopping that pick. The Colts are going to move up if they can. But if you're the Packers and you trade him to the Jets and you get that number 13 overall pick, you can use both of those picks to go up to number 3. And if C.J. Stroud falls, because if Bryce Young goes number 2, I got to assume Will Levis is going to Houston at number 2. Or Bryce Young goes 1. I am all jacked up today on how I'm speaking. You have that number 3 pick where Arizona sits. They're with Kyler Murray. They're stuck with them.
Correct.
The Packers could trade up and take C.J. Stroud. Imagine C.J. Stroud versus Justin Fields, Chicago, Green Bay.
I got to be honest with you. I think I'd rather have Will Levis.
Why? C.J. Stroud is the most NFL-ready quarterback in this draft.
I'm not arguing that.
He is everything.
He's a smart kid. He's a good kid. I'm just thinking stereotypical Packer quarterbacks.
Watch the Packers. Listen, this is the Packers front office. They'll trade up to number 3 and draft Hendon Hooker from Tennessee. So
maybe.
I mean, that would be a Packer move.
It makes no sense for the Packers to draft a quarterback. They've got Jordan Love. That's the sword you're going to fall
I'm the one saying he's the next Packer Hall of Fame quarterback. But if you can go up there and get C.J. Stroud at number 3 using your 2 first-round draft picks that you just got,
you've got an automatic quarterback controversy going into Jordan Love's first year.
Love it.
Now, if they could go up there, if you're going to make that trade and you go up and you get, I don't know, an offensive lineman, you get a big-time wide receiver, but I don't think any of those guys are top.
The Packers could use the 13 and the 15 to give to Arizona to move up and draft C.J. Stroud. I still think C.J. Stroud's the number 1 overall pick. I really do.
I think Carolina likes Bryce Young.
They can like Bryce Young all they want. He's 5'10 and 185 pounds.
90.
And already has injury problems. Look what happened with Tua, an Alabama quarterback that has injury problems. The injury problems don't go away.
Look, if it was me, I'd draft C.J. Stroud number 1. Not hands down, not even a question. But I'm not making that pick.
You also have Anthony Richardson from Florida, who has been flying up the draft boards. Anthony Richardson could be a Alex Smith situation. where nobody thinks he's the number one overall pick until a week before the draft, which we're coming up to. And all of a sudden, I mean, the dude hit the ceiling with a football. He looked good at his pro day, which means nothing.
Then somebody's going to fall.
Bryce Young's going to fall. I think Bryce Young falls out of the first round. I really do.
I just don't see it.
I think he has a meteoric fall.
I don't see it. Then I can see Packers taking Bryce Young if he falls to 13. I don't see the Packers trading up. I just don't. They love their draft picks. They never make trades.
I think two teams take quarterbacks that you don't expect to take quarterbacks. One being the Green Bay Packers.
And the other being?
The Denver Broncos. In the first two rounds, the Denver Broncos draft a quarterback. It would also not surprise me if the Saints try and trade up. They won't. They don't have a first-round pick, so I don't see how they're getting there. They already traded their first-round pick to Philadelphia. But they will draft a quarterback. When do the Saints draft first? Let's see here. Hold on. The 29th pick.
Okay.
So they have the 29th pick right now.
So there's that. They aren't going to move up. They can't package enough to move up.
No, but if Hendon Hooker falls, that is a very Sean Payton type of quarterback.
Absolutely. I can see Denver doing that.
Bryce Young could fall. I don't touch Bryce Young with a 10-foot pole. I really don't. Why are you drafting a 5'10" quarterback that's 185 pounds? This isn't like Russell Wilson, who's 220 jacked, right?
Correct.
Kyler Murray is I wouldn't have drafted him either, honestly. I would have stayed away from him. You had, who am I thinking of? The short guy from New Orleans. Hall of Fame quarterback, just retired. Drew Brees. Drew Brees, who's 6 foot shorter.
Doug Flutie, another short quarterback, but just transcended the game.
Yeah, they're not those guys. Those guys were all bigger. They were stronger. Baker Mayfield's on about my height at this point, too.
Look, I don't see it. I don't know why you'd take somebody the size of Bryce Young. Denver is certainly not going to take him because they already have one that size. They're going to go and get
New Orleans and Green Bay are drafting a quarterback this year, and I think both of them draft a quarterback in the first 2 rounds.
No. Denver's not going to. New Orleans may. Green Bay's not.
If Green Bay trades Aaron Rodgers to the Jets and get the 14th overall pick, they are trading up to number 3 and drafting Ohio State quarterback C.J. Stroud.
Nope. Never happening. They love their... Gutekunst is on the hot seat already in Green Bay.
Pride will get in the way.
It would be
Pride will get in the way of that happening.
Pick.
But that is a brilliant move for the Green Bay Packers.
If you don't believe in Jordan Love.
Listen, I said on the show he's the next Hall of Fame quarterback.
Then why would you draft the C.J. Stroud?
It's C.J. Stroud.
No.
I'm just saying, if the Packers are holding out for an extra pick for a reason. There's a reason they're holding out. This is the front office of the Green Bay Packers we're talking about here.
The most dysfunctional front office in the NFL.
Right. It is very much a Gutekunst move to package those, trade up, and draft a quarterback.
If he does that, number one, he should have been fired for trading away Davante Adams and then the next year letting Aaron Rodgers go.
Yeah.
But if he drafts a quarterback, he will get run out of town on a rail.
Yep. He should have never traded Davante Adams. He should never trade Aaron Rodgers. But he's going to trade up. And he won't be able to help himself. He needs an out if Jordan Love is bad.
He does need that.
And the greatest out you can have is to bring in another first-round quarterback. The other thing I could see if the Packers don't do that is bringing in Cam Newton.
I could see him bringing in Cam Newton as a backup and as an insurance policy.
I don't know if Cam Newton will be willing to start. He'd have to change his number. He can't wear number 1.
Correct.
Number 1 belongs to the shareholders. Nobody else wears that number, so he's going to have to change it.
I would think Cam Newton as a Packer. I don't know if he could be a backup behind Jordan Love, but if he's willing to do it, I would love Cam Newton as my backup.
I think he's a great signing if you bring him in.
Oh, I do too. I
don't know if Cam Newton's willing to back somebody up. I really don't.
I think he sees himself as a starter yet.
He said that. He says there's 32 other guys that have jobs, and I'm better than all of them.
Which is the attitude you want.
I love the confidence. I'm a huge Cam Newton fan.
I am too.
I always have been.
I have been since the day he ripped down the Packers sign. And
he could wear number 2. That was his number in college. Cut Mason
Crosby.
Can't.
He can't. Number 2 is going to be retired for Mason Crosby.
You are not retiring a kicker's number. You do not retire a kicker.
Nobody's going to wear number 2 for a long time.
That's not true. Somebody came in and wore number 8 after Longwell left immediately.
Different deal.
It's not a different deal.
Cam
Newton can come in and wear number 2.
Mason Crosby.
I love Mason Crosby. He's a kicker.
He's a kicker.
He's a kicker.
But you're not going to give him number 2.
How many people have hit game-winning, or how many game-winning kicks has he hit in the playoffs? 0. You don't retire Mason Crosby's number. They didn't retire Adam Vinatieri's number.
They're not going to give Cam Newton number 2. It's not going to happen.
Cut the kicker, give the quarterback number 2.
No. The problem is, he's going to have to go a ways to find another number because you can't give him 3, you can't give him 4, you can't give him 5, maybe 6.
You can give him 6. Another punter number.
Give him 7, but everybody remembers, the great Don Majkowski, so.
Forget Don Majkowski.
Yeah.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. He could wear number 11. Hasselback's old number. I don't know why I remember that.
Why would you? Talking about strange trivia. That may be the strangest of them all.
I don't know why I remember that, but he definitely wore number 11 for the Green Bay Packers.
Okay. I
don't know.
Would I love to see Cam Newton? Yes, they've got to go and get a quality backup because what happens if Love goes down and gets hurt?
Yes, you need a quality backup. I think one of two things happen. Either you bring in Cam Newton, you're going to have to sign him to a big contract. You don't have a choice. You're going to have to pay him $15 million for a year.
Or if you trade to New England.
First-round picks.
Yeah.
You could bring in Mac Jones. You could trade him to New England. I mean, they're clearly trying to leverage. It's going to be interesting because I could see number 12 back in Green Bay this year. The longer this goes to start, he's not sitting behind Love.
Gutekunst will never allow 12 to start another game, even though he should. It will not happen. Talking about ego and writing checks your body can't cash, that's Brian Gutekunst to the nth degree. He could trade him. You could
another quarterback is coming to Green Bay, and another
Trey Lance. You can get Trey Lance from San Francisco. I don't know that that's an upgrade. Mac Jones. I think Zach Wilson's going to be part of the
CJ Stroud.
Move on. We'll talk draft in a couple weeks.
CJ Stroud.
Okay, fine.
Green Bay Packers.
That's your prediction. Fine.
Bold prediction.
Not happening.
Broncos are also taking somebody up. Bryce Young is falling out of the first round.
All right.
Love is a Hall of Fame quarterback.
You heard it here
on a
first.
Different team.
Predictions guaranteed not to happen.
Listen, I think you and I have had a fun show. It's time to wrap it up, but we cannot finish without a very certain thing because dads always get the last words. It is all you.
So Angela Reese is my hero for a couple reasons.
Angel Reese.
Why did I say Angela?
Yeah.
Sorry. Angel Reese.
We're struggling today.
We're not talking well. Couple things. So Caitlin Clark was named the Wooden Award winner.
Correct.
It shouldn't be the Wooden Award. It should be the Summit Award for women's basketball. John Wooden was a men's coach. Change it. Honor Gino or honor Pat Summit. Change that award to reflect somebody who's done as much as they have in the women's game. That's all I'm saying about that. So Joe Biden comes out the other day and goes, well, I was at the women's game. I think we should invite both teams to the White House instead of the championship team only, which is traditionally who gets the invite. They earned it. Ms. Reese came out and said, yeah, I'm not going. If both teams are there, not going to do it.
She tweets a joke with laughy faces.
I love it. Iowa has no business being there. I think they're too classy to even show up, but Jill Biden needs to check her comments. LSU earned it. LSU should go to the White House. And Iowa, maybe next year. But that's it.
Press secretary for Jill Biden came out and backed up those comments. And
Real
Joe
fast.
Biden tweeted out saying just LSU.
As well it should be. So Caitlin Clark should be the Summit Award winner, and LSU only to the White House.
It will be LSU only to the White House, and I also agree. They need to change the women's award. I don't normally agree with you on these, but I agree with you on both.
You always agree with me because they're always right.
Wrong. Check the tapes. And if you agree with the fact that he's normally wrong on these, comment below and like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. Thank you so much for watching today. We appreciate you as always. This has been Sports Talk with Dad.
Bye, everybody.